الخاسرين الذين خسروا أنفسهم وأهليهم يوم القيامة ألا ذلك هو الخسران المبين.
The losers surely are those who shall have lost themselves and their families on the day of resurrection. Ah, that will be the manifest loss. Unlawful relationships, consequences of haram relationships in the noble words of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One who jokes with a non-mahram, for every word that he utters with her, will be detained for 1,000 years in the hellfire. And if that woman gets carried away and willingly falls in his arms, kisses, touches, laughs, and an indecent act takes place, this woman too, like that man, is a sinner deserving a similar punishment. But if the woman was not willing, then the sin of the two will be upon the man. One of the scenes seen a lot today is boys and girls holding hands, walking, talking, shopping, etc. No matter how optimistic one may be, one question remains unanswered. The age is not a legal marriage age. Does this suit a Muslim? Is this not just but disgrace? Is this not disappointing as to how so easily such a divine command is disobeyed? How easily an eternal regret is bought at such a low price? There exists no language which the youth understand or accept. Numerous justifications to make their action lawful are presented. Not having such unlawful relationships is recognized as impossible. In this short presentation, a few of the glorious sayings of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be mentioned. Insha'Allah, they will guide. This point has to be added that such unlawful relationships create lust and greed and remove chastity from other youth. When a young boy or girl sees that his or her mates have such unlawful relationships, they justify it for themselves. And this action of theirs invites those who are not interested in such indecent exposures. Lack of the divine knowledge and shaitan's whispers deviate many and make the young sink into this filthy, stinking hell of lust. Life for practicing religious, decent people becomes difficult by the pollution made by these indecent and unlawful relationships. In fact, this society is afflicted with an incurable disease. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Segregate men from women, for by their confronting each other, frequenting with one another, the society will be afflicted with a cureless pain." Furthermore, he says, "Refrain from being alone with women. By him in whose possession is my life, no man is alone with a woman, but that shaitan is between them. Furthermore, know that a pig drowned in feces and dirt touching you is better than the shoulder of a woman touching a non-mahram." He further mentions, "A needle with full force striking on your head is better than a touch of a woman who is not mahram to you." He sallallahu alaihi wasallam further says, "One who shakes hand with a non-mahram on the day of judgment will appear with his hands chained onto his neck. He will then be commanded to be taken to the fire." Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, "O servants of Allah, know that men talking to non-mahram women, mingling with them, invite misfortunes and tests. It deviates the hearts. Staring at women extinguishes the light of one's heart. Furthermore, looking at women not mahram with the corner of one's eye is among the satanic traps. from the corner of the eye. Shaitan at times tempts to look at women, says, "Look at her and quickly turn away your sight." This very look gives birth to further looks, and an introduction to greater sins is opened. Regarding talking to women, the Holy Prophet ﷺ says, "Refrain from talking to women. Indeed, no man talks to a woman in private, but that his heart is inclined to her." The consequences of looking at non-mahram. Bearing in mind that the human soul is highly flexible, it is wrong to say that it is very limited in accepting and is eased beyond that point. No man hates not to have the beautiful associated to him, nor any woman hates not to inspire or attract the heart of another man. In brief, no heart is ever saturated from desires. The eye is the window of the heart and the messenger of his thoughts. If we learn to look and experience how to see, the eye becomes a spring of hope and faith. Our seeing will be worship, means of growth and elevation. And if it is allowed to see what it desires, what it pleases, many losses will be witnessed by man and will be dragged towards other sins. If man's intellect and the charge of his thinking is given to the eye, it will have many mental and non-mental effects. It can well ruin man. In this regard, Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam says, "Al-aynu jasusul qalb wa baridul aql." The eye is the spy of the heart and the messenger of the intellect. Elsewhere reports, "Al-ayn baridul qalb." The eye is the messenger of the heart. The term spy in the first hadith specifies that the eye has an effect on the heart. As a spy, no matter what report it brings forth, the heart, the commander-in-chief, accepts. And as the word of a messenger is effective, we can hereby derive that a look too does affect the human soul. In all unlawful relationships, the first step is a polluted look. Those who step in this disliked valley are very likely to be afflicted with this permanent disease. Psychiatrists believe peeping, staring, evil looks are a kind of a mental disorder. The eyes are one of the essential organs which play a vital role in sexual arousals. At times these unlawful looks may well lead to self-abuse. Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam says, "The heart is the book of the eye. It is the eye which writes on the heart." We can analyze the consequences of looks in a few categories. Mental consequences. A disease or a disliked habit. The first step in unlawful relationships is a polluted look. Those who step in this valley are afflicted with a permanent disease. As mentioned earlier, eyes and lustful looks are among the elements of sexual arousals. In this regard, centuries ago, the Holy Prophet ﷺ had mentioned, every organ of man has a share in adultery. The adultery of the eye is a look. 2. Losing tranquility, an increase in stress. Unlawful gazes and looks ruin the peace and tranquility of the human soul. 3. Sickening of the intellect. Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam says, one who is associated with lust, his soul, his intellect is sick. Elsewhere he alayhi salam says, one loses his intellect between lust and carnal desires. Desiring diversity. In this regard, Will Durant, American historian, writer and philosopher, says, the corruption after marriage is the result of the premarital habits. Young couples who have built their marital life on the basis of lust and looks the wives especially worry for their husbands being trapped again by other sights, and this worry is sufficient to ruin her life. Among the social consequences of these looks are a bad name for both. Unlawful relationships start with a joke, a blink, a stare. It gives birth to sins. In other teachings, this issue has been emphasized a lot, that a sin followed by another sin. A look after look grows lust in the heart and is enough deviation for one who looks. Therefore, the best way to refrain from haram lusts, as said by Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, is Ni'ma sarifu shahawat ghadhul absar. The best protection from lust is protecting the sights. Ways to cure. Staring is unfortunately one of the disliked diseases that many members of the society are afflicted with. To fight this disease, its horrendous after and side effects have to be studied carefully. A checklist to safeguard and to protect the eyes is hereby being mentioned. Confronting these lustful looks, lowering and covering the sight is mentioned. Addressing the women in Surah Al-Ahzab says, be normal in your day-to-day talks. Do not talk in a way that attracts others, and do not appear in public places uncovered or with see-through clothing. In the same surah, further instructs to cover the entire body and the head. The glorious Quran recognizes lowering the sights as an essential duty of every Muslim. It instructs both men and women to be mindful of their sights to non-mahrams. The Almighty says, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفَظُوا فَرْجَهُمْ ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا يَصْنَعُونَ. Say to the believing men that they cast down their looks and guard their private parts. That is purer for them. Surely Allah is aware of what they do. Then commands the women to cast down their looks. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ وَيَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ. Quran then instructs to observe chastity at large. Regarding indecent relationships, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that every part of one's body has a share in adultery. The adultery of the eye is to look, the adultery of the tongue is to speak, and the adultery of the ears is to hear. Joking with women, for every word he has joked with a non-mahram, he will be detained for 1,000 years in the staring is one of the signs of hubbud dunya, and one of the essential means which activates unawareness, ghaflat, distances man from the remembrance of God. And in this regard, Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam says, there is no organ more thankless and ungrateful than the eye. Give not what it desires, as it will distance you from the remembrance of God. Consequences of staring. Staring, a look at a non-mahram, is the path which leads to practical deviations and sexual sins. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam says, staring gives birth to lust in one's heart, which is enough for one to be misled. A look is a poisonous spear from among the spears of Iblis. Therefore we have to be mindful and cautious of our looks. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, every eye will be crying on the day of judgment but three. An eye which cried due to the fear of Allah, an eye which lowered from that what Allah had abandoned, and an eye which kept awake in the path of Allah. Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam further says that one who reduces his looks, his heart will be at rest, and there is no blessing better than the tranquility of the heart. A pure eye is safe from the eternal torture and punishments, a punishment as defined by the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as such: one who saturates his eyes by looking at women who are not mahram, The Almighty will nail his eyes with fire and nails of fire until the accounting of the creation has taken place. He will then be assigned the hell. Chastity for chastity. A very delicate issue that we see in the riwayat is, if one crosses the limits and pollutes the dignity of others, his own dignity will be polluted. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam says, during the time of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, a man has an indecent relationship, adultery with another's wife, comes home, sees a stranger with his wife, complains to the Prophet. Prophet Musa to the two said, be chaste so that your dignity is safe. He continued, Jibreel alayhi salam just revealed one who crosses the bounds to indecency with others, expect the same with your own women. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam says, one who has faith in God must never sleep in a place where he can hear the breathing of a non-mahram. Imam Ali alayhi salam further mentions, the third to company an associate with two non-mahrams is shaitan. According to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, protect your eyes, you will see wonders. Cast down your looks, your heart will be at rest. One who lowers his sight, his straits improve. One who sees a woman diverts his look towards the sky or closes his eyes won't open, but that the Almighty Allah has wetted him with the houris of the heaven. A look is a poisonous spear from among the spears of Iblis. One who avoids it due to the fear of Allah, Allah will give him a faith whose sweetness is felt in one's heart. وَسُبْحَانَ رَبِّكَ رَبِّ الْعِزَّةِ عَمَّا يَصِفُونَ وَسَلَامٌ عَلَى الْمُرْسَلِينَ وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ.